35% or close to that of people who actually have powers of attorney. And so it's like people aren't even doing the basic documentation that everybody needs. So if that's all people are doing for powers of attorney, I can't imagine how many people are planning elder care at the moment.
If you live long enough, you will either become a caregiver or you will depend on one. In the United States alone, more than 53 million adults are currently providing unpaid care to a loved one. That's roughly 1 in 5 adults, balancing careers, raising children, managing households, while quietly carrying the responsibility of someone else's aging, illness, or decline. And for most families, it doesn't begin with a plan. It begins with a fall, a diagnosis, a hospital stay, or a phone call in the middle of the night. And overnight, the responsibility shifts from the system to the family. Today's guest believes the most dangerous part of aging isn't the decline itself, it's waiting until the crisis hits to start the conversation. Welcome to the SwagAbility Show, friends, where faith meets resilience and stories become light in dark places. I'm your host, Stephen Wagstaff, founder of SwagAbility, where our mission is to help you thrive wherever life finds you. Today, we're joined by Amy Friesen, best-selling author, Eldercare expert, and the founder of Tea and Toast. Amy, I think it's been months we've been trying to get together finally on this, and it's happened. So I'm so happy that we've been able to record this. Thanks for spending a few moments today with us.
We made it. We're here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think you were one of my first or second contacts way back when I joined Pod Match, and then life just for both of us was different directions, mostly me. But anyway, we're here and we're recording, and we're gonna have a great episode. Before we get to even like the tea and toast and book and things like that. Can you give me a little bit, as much as you want to share with our audience, why this passion and devotion to not just elder care but caregiving in general? When did that become first and foremost something that really drove you to want to make change?
I recently really dug deep on this type of question because my passion has been in this industry. I've been here for over 21 years now, and I didn't know this is where I was going to land, and I really thought about it, and it comes back to my own Nan. And when I was younger, she passed away from cancer when I was 15, and I felt really helpless, and I felt like there was nothing I could do. I was 15, and it was just loss of that grandmother figure, and also that not knowing what I can do to help. And then when you fast forward almost 10 years from there, when I was 24, I found this industry, which is the retirement home industry and long-term care and that health seniors housing industry. And I really found my place here. It was totally unexpected. I took an psychology of aging class, the last class I took in university in my psych degree, and it just clicked. So I really wanted to help people in making those decisions and being a part of that. And what I really found almost 10 years after me entering the field was that people were more confused than ever. There was more retirement homes and long-term care homes. What's the difference? What do we do? What's the process? And it was more than I could service people in one home. And so I decided to start Tea and Toast because this industry was up and coming here. It's bigger in the States, but in Canada it's quite small. So I really started in that way to form up kind of what I was doing in marketing and helping people find residents, but in a much bigger way and in the community where we hear more stories and we're able to help in more and deeper ways, really.
So, before we dig further into that tea and toast and the need and the type of support it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been telling people after I watched my wife go through caregiver burnout, am I somewhere in the ballpark when I say that what mental health was maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that kind of closet thing, unacceptable in the public, kind of now talked about more. So it's an okay space to talk about it. I
Yeah,
think caregiver burnout is probably where mental health was, right? It's that subject that who wants to admit, like my wife said, that you're starting to resent someone that you loved. And so I think it's that kind of closet area that we really need to shed light on. Correct me if I'm wrong, or
no, you're right, and I think to that point, there's some stigma behind caregiver burnout, and then there's a whole lack of knowledge because people don't know how to pinpoint it, right? They don't know how to recognize it from just being tired because you have a lot of things on your mind or a lot of things you're doing versus that exhaustion point. And the thing is that lots of things in mental health are dangerous if they get too far, right? Like anything is, is a line. But the issue with caregiver burnout is that once the caregiver's burned out, everything kind of goes into shambles because they're caring for someone that can't care for themselves often. They burn out, they go to hospital. Sometimes we even see the caregivers pass away before people who are needing the care. And so it's a real danger to be in. And I just don't think, in general, there's not enough education in the senior space in general, really. But in this caregiver burnout piece, we just don't talk about it enough. And I think that's probably why I talk about it as much as I can.
yeah, we'll get into that maybe in a little bit. I want to jump back over to the tea and toast. Great name because it suits elder care perfectly. Where did if you don't mind, where did the title come from? And I noticed you said Nan. Where geography wise am I talking for you? Because I love hearing different expressions for either a grandparent or whatever it is, and I love the name Nan. Where is that popular and used?
Well, I don't know if it's popular, but I'm in Ontario,
Oh,
Canada,
you're only
and
two
so
provinces over.
yeah, we're close. And so nanny would be the long term. We
Yeah,
used to call her nanny granny.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's really
Cool.
heartfelt for me.
Mhm.
And it's funny, the name Tea and Toast, when I first named my company that, I had two confidants in the marketing role like I was in different residences. And I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump. What is your thought process? Here's the name. And one of them was like, well, you could change the name later. It's a little negative. And so it made me kind of second guess. But as someone, if any of your listeners have started a business and had to name it, it's
Yeah,
very difficult, and you
it
would know
is.
the same. It's extremely difficult.
Mhm.
And so the name really is twofold. It's the tea and toast that is comfortable. Our seniors, lots of people eat tea and toast, but specifically our seniors are eating the tea and toast because it's an easy meal, it's warm, comfortable, like I said. But when it becomes a nutrition issue and the adult children then see, okay, mom's eating this 3 times a day, what else is she eating? Is she getting enough nutrition? Then it's a red flag. And so a lot of the time, if you're in the know, you're in the know. As soon as you kind of pass that threshold, it's like leveling up in my world. It's like you pass the threshold, and then all of a sudden, this tea and toast makes sense.
What portion, if you could even come close with ballparking a percentage, do you feel have had that conversation ahead of time and have already started thinking about it in their 50s, 60s, let's say 60s, so that it becomes more of a natural transition? Is it very minimal and small on the scale, or are there a lot more people thinking about it these days? I wouldn't know.
I mean, it's hard to know what people are thinking about and planning behind doors, but I can tell you for people that are looking for information and whatnot, I would tell you that most of the people that we help and service are in crisis mode. We do have people that are planning, and that's why we have different services such as elder care planning, because we don't want people to think that you just need help when you're looking for retirement. There's a whole slew of things ahead of that. And so I'm hoping that our work is helping people come to this realization that planning is better, because A lot of people think that the other side of the coin is easier. So they don't want to plan. They don't want to have these awkward conversations. I'll do it later, whatnot. But then the other side of the coin is much messier. And I mean, even in Canada, I think the number is like 35% or close to that of people who actually have powers of attorney. And so it's like people aren't even doing the basic documentation that everybody needs. So if that's all people are doing for powers of attorney, I can't imagine how many people are planning elder care at the moment. Lots of people also think about it. They think about the retirement home industry and the senior housing industry and elder care in general as if they were doing like a pre-plan for a funeral actually as well. And so a lot of people have this mindset that if I do the planning, I'm going to die. And so it's really not what that is, but it will help you retain independence and choice if you do the planning.
Twofold question kind of leads me into, I mean, there was a day and age where the family unit, and I'm not sure when it switched, but it was very natural to not. It wouldn't be very emotionally charged or whatever. It was just there was just almost an expectation when mom and dad are down, either we'll move in with them or vice versa. It seems as life has picked up, the busier we've got, the more technology, we've become much more divided about our time. Tell me what leadership looks like then in an emotionally charged situation like elder care. What are good leadership traits or qualities in either a family member or someone in the business that can navigate this sometimes very difficult and highly emotional charged industry?
I think that communication is very high up on the list, but it's not just the communication, it's to make sure that there's comprehension. And so in this trauma type space as well, you know, many people can communicate all day long, but if the other side is not comprehending, not interested in engaging, then that's more difficult. And even when I work with people, and that they can't get across to their loved ones, sometimes we can get across them, sometimes we can't, and sometimes the answer is really you need to take care of yourself and step back for a minute. It's not because they don't want their loved one to be safe, but you know, in situations like that, it's really important to give everybody a voice because everybody matters, and really have the eye on what's happening as a group. You know, are there multiple siblings? Are there multiple parents? What's happening as a group? And look at the whole situation and then do an analysis of that, because no family's the same. Everybody has different triggers. Everybody has different points that they're trying to get through. And so really having that lens, as I mentioned, to see, okay, this is that type of role. This is that type of role. This is why this person's being quiet. This one's, you know, being aggressive, you know, whatnot, and being able to kind of direct it a little bit.
Yeah, you used a word there that I think segues well into this next question, caregiver. When you were talking about leader taking time as a caregiver, I know we spoke about burnout earlier as a new term, needing to shed more light on it. But can you tell us what burnout looks like in a caregiver before they start to recognize it themselves? Because my wife, who really wanted to be part of this, but she's away today, she arrived in burnout and didn't know what it was because number one, we never talked about it. We just went along, life was fine until it wasn't. But yeah, we even try to look back and peg what some symptoms may look like. You're in the thick of this, and this is your kind of backyard. What are some of these symptoms that people may not even be aware of that are creeping up in life for them?
I think one of the important things to mention before that is that caregiver burnout is a symptom of the situation that's not being managed properly for oodles of reasons. And so it's not the problem, it's a symptom. And so I think people need to think in that way a little bit more, that, you know, when people burn out, that there's a lot of depression that comes with it. There's a lot of fatigue, irritability, to your point earlier, just not being happy with the person that you're caregiving for. There's so
Resentment.
many, yeah, there's so many signs that the burnout is there, and so it's like twofold, right? It's like the signs that the burnout is there, which are those plus many others. And then there's the fact of understanding that the burnout itself is a symptom of an overloaded system that's not working. It's kind of like in trauma work when you have digestion issues, that's a symptom of chronic stress, for instance, right? And so you have to solve the chronic stress issue before the digestion solves.
Yes.
And so that's another different way to look at it to solve the caregiving situation. And that should lift some of the burnout as well.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably say it later on, but my wife has said it to me, and I've said it vice versa. I love seeing her go off for girl time on things because after she reached it, near broke our marriage, counseling brought us together, and we're so grateful for that. We have a strong relationship than it's stronger than it's ever been. But I realize that when I say she's no good to me, that is a terrible, sounds terrible, but her level of care for me, her ability to care for me is very minimal and not at its best, she would say, because she's had nothing poured into her. And so her pond goes stagnant and then has nothing left to give. And that's when it becomes just dangerous for both parties because the person that's injured or ill can't do things like they used to, but the partner is no longer. And the solution, obviously, is that the caregiver needs time to regroup, and that's kind of at SwagAbility where we hope to be able to step in and offer professional care for a time being while that caregiver gets to recoup or whatever. And then we look for funding and things with partners like you because we just recognize it as something that's it's going to be an epidemic, but it's unavoidable.
Well,
What would
we've
you say?
even,
Yeah, go ahead.
to add on to that, I think maybe I mentioned it earlier, but we've even started just a small fund called our CARES program. And we have people apply to it for this caregiver burnout situation where they may not have the money for care or they may just need that break for a minute. And so we do a couple of those a year where we just pay
Wonderful.
for them to go to retirement living or we pay for them to have home care through through mostly tea and toast revenue, but also through we have a couple of donors as well. And it's just one thing and you're doing one thing and we're doing one thing and it just takes a couple of us to start moving that needle along.
Let's move on to solutions in a different way. How can families begin this conversation about aging earlier and with more confidence? What does that initial conversation at a younger age, or if they've already crisis mode or whatever? What does that meeting look like, and what would you say to people that need to have that meeting? How can they do that in the most caring and loving way?
If you're in the planning aspect, because planning and crisis will be different, but if you're in the planning aspect, it's really important before the conversation to do a couple of things. One is to, again, what is the concern? Talk it over with yourself. What is it that is concerning you? Say your mother, for instance. Is it that she has stairs in her house that's unsafe? Is it that she has cognitive decline? What is it? And get clear with that. Don't make those decisions in conversation.
Yeah.
And then don't sneak up on people.
Mhm.
Book a time with them. Hey, mom, I'm coming over for lunch Tuesday at 12. I'd like to talk to you about X. I just have some concerns. I thought we'd just air it out. And go over and have a conversation with them. It's not an accusatory conversation. It's not, I'm on this side, you're on this side. It's, these are my concerns. How do you feel about them? Let's have a conversation and talk about it. I would tell you that generally conversations can go better that way if the person that is needing the care is open to them. If the person not is not open to them, in general, it's worth a try to have these stable conversations, but you might not be able to get there. And so if you can't get there, there's professionals that can help. And then there's like always, the more drastic, do you want to be that caregiver? Is this a situation which, you've been estranged or whatever, and you can't have these conversations? Then there's a whole other decision tree there. But for people who can have the conversations, sticking to one topic at a time, remembering you're on the same team, having them gentle, listen to what they have to say, let them plan. Hey, I'm coming over for lunch to talk about this. Then they can think about it and have that conversation. Because if you spring it on them, they may get flustered and then fights may break out and whatnot. And so as much planning as you can do so that you're not scaring the person, I guess, is kind of what I'm thinking. You're not scaring that person as like, oh my God, they're going to move me to a home, versus let's just have a conversation so I can have a better idea of what your plan might be and what you think about this, and if you're concerned too.
Does that conversation, whether how easy or hard, strange, whatever, is there an age if cognitive ability is still intact? Is there a general age that you would say to someone, I wouldn't wait till any longer, but talking about it at such and such a stage is much more likely you can have at least an understandable conversation with one another?
I think,
That makes sense.
yeah, I think that the earlier the better. There's definitely things you can do early, right? Like those powers of attorneys and
Yeah.
wills and all that stuff. Even me in my 40s has this stuff, because you can do all that stuff. I think that if there's something in the family that is hereditary, for instance, like other like MS and cognitive and different things like that, that may come up and that you've seen in your family, I think that's valid to have those conversations, because a lot of people are operating about what they saw their parents go through. And so if you're able to see those things ahead of time, then I think that it's worth having pieces of conversations. You don't have to have all of the conversation, but I don't think there's too early. I think there's just, if you start early enough, you don't have to have them in a clump. You don't have to have everything all at once.
We've talked for the most part about the people having the conversation with the client or the elderly person. For the elderly person who's listening to this podcast today, what is one practical step or some advice that you can give to these individuals that may have these conversations in the next few years? How can they prepare themselves, or what what state of mind or kind of conversation can they be prepared to have back? I'm just trying to put myself in the other shoe. If I'm the person that's going to need the care, talk to that person for a minute about that. What may take place in the next few years.
I think it's really important for us all to have ownership over our lives. And that doesn't go away because we age. Yes, for folks that have some cognitive decline, that might look different. But for the majority of people that are in these types of conversations, thinking about it, it's your life to control, but that's also not a pass to do nothing, right? And so there's a lot of people that come to me and say, Amy, I'm not going to plan. I'm going out feet first in a pine box. And I say to them, that's great. That doesn't normally happen. And, in order for that to happen, you still need a plan. Because if you don't have a plan of, if you fall or if you get ill and you're in hospital and things aren't set up at your home, you're not going back home.
Someone else will have that
That's
conversation.
right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people stick their head in the sand, especially, my 80 and 90-year-olds. It's just a generational difference as well. But a lot of them just want to stay home, which I understand and I agree with. But you have to plan to do that. You have to do things early enough, such as put a grab bar in the shower. You need the grab bar before you fall, not after you fall. And so some people are worried about doing things too early because they don't want to feel old, right? They don't want to have a grab bar, they don't want to have extra support.
Yeah.
But the second, for instance, in this scenario, the second they step into a bathtub and they fall, if they have a grab bar, they're much better off than not. And
Yeah.
so it's like thinking about in that proactive manner to make sure that you're as safe as possible in your own world, because again, you have the ultimate control. But if you don't do that, you will lose the control of it because either a system or a family member will have to take over.
Yeah, such good points. Before I let you go, I want to talk to two more questions for you. Talk to the young person out there that's listening to this podcast right now. What would you want them to know about preparing for caregiving responsibilities that haven't thought about it yet?
I often tell younger, like adult children, even grandchildren, right?
Yep.
You're not alone. And so younger generations are better at that communication piece than I think us in the middle are. But more often than not, I see people that are just starting this caregiver journey and they do feel alone because they don't know where to look for support. But most often, there's people in the workplace, there's colleagues, there's friends, there's other people, there's support groups, there's all sorts of stuff out there. It takes some self realization to say, hey, I do need help and start to look for it. You have to be on the boat. But once you do, there's a lot of people out there dealing with the same stuff. It might look different, but it's in the same bucket of stuff. And so just to understand that even with the stat you gave earlier with caregivers, it's impossible to be alone in caregiving right now. It's just impossible. It's going to get even more. And so you could throw a stone and hit a caregiver. It's just everybody.
1 in 5.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk before we go, though. You've been recognized for your work, and you've got a great book out, Breadcrumbs. Tell us a little bit about the writing of that, the why, and what people can expect by picking a copy up. And then lastly, give you the opportunity to tell people where they can find your work and get in touch with you and your materials. So please tell us a little bit about the making and writing of Breadcrumbs.
Sure. Sorry, you froze.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear my question? It was tell us a little bit about your book, Breadcrumbs.
Great. Yeah, so I have a copy just for visual effect. I'm a visual learner, so I wrote Breadcrumbs to get more information out to caregivers because we all learn differently. And we have a lot of resources on teaandtoast.ca where they could just download and take whatever they need. And so some people do really well with that. Lots of people love books. And so I decided to put it in a book format as just another format of information. There's not a lot of information in this realm in Canada specifically. And so I did generalize it a bit, but there's Canadian reference in there as well because I wanted to meet people where they are, and they may not be ready to talk to anybody, but they may be ready to pick up a book and read through it. And so it's just another way to reach them. And then again, like people can find copies of that or find downloads on teaandtoast.ca. And really, there's so many different things there to start your journey, even if it's just we have a checklist, we have an Eldercare planning guide, we have a lot of stuff because there just wasn't anything out there. And so I create constantly for everybody. I was going to say our people, but for everybody, so that when they find us, they have all of this information right at their fingertips.
Yeah. I really appreciate this. Has been a great conversation. One I think we've got to revisit down the road again. I don't think this conversation can be talked about enough. And where before we go, we'll put a copy in our show notes of where to get it. But you said your website. Where else can people get a hands on your work or connect with you?
Sure. Yeah, so you can connect with me or my team at teaandtoast.ca. There's a contact button there. And Breadcrumbs is on Amazon, well, Amazon everywhere, as well as Indigo chapters for our Canadian audience as well. So it's in both spots.
Great. And from your website to connect with you?
Yeah, so from our website at teaandtoast.ca, there's either to book a call with me generally, or there's also links for the books there.
You're doing an amazing work, and I applaud you for it. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks very much.
Friends, if this episode's reminded you that caregiving is not just a future possibility, but a very real responsibility, know that what could be unfolding in your life, as Amy mentioned, you're not meant to walk through these seasons alone. There's families, there's loved ones, or there's help such as Tea and Toast or SwagAbility, where we want to make sure no individual walks through this difficulty alone, to be able to point you to resources and to professionals that can help you in that way. If you've been encouraged in any way by this episode, you can do us the greatest honor by number one, subscribing to our YouTube channel. But secondly, if you could follow us on whatever your favorite podcast platform could be, that's a great way of supporting us, not even monetizing it that way by following us. It's a great help for us. And to learn more about my wife and I and what SwagAbility does, please feel free to jump over to our website, swagability.com, and there you'll find all the things that we want to walk with you through. Amy, thank you again. Tea and Toast, her website will be in the notes, as well as a link to where you can get her book. Until next time, friends, stay encouraged, stay faithful, and keep thriving wherever life finds you. Swags out.